I want to thank everyone for tuning in. We are so excited about this chat. So, joining me is a Coffee Club member, Tara. Tara helps, well, actually, I'm just going to let her introduce herself.
Yeah, hey everybody. Some of you have seen me before, but I'm Tara Busha and I am a mom of 8 from Minnesota, and I still homeschool the remaining 5 at home. And I have actually worked from home in a variety of ways, both in remote jobs and in a variety of businesses for the last 23 years or so now. And so it's been a journey. And so that's what I do now is I help other moms. I really particularly favor homeschoolers find alternatives to working so that they can live the life that they want by design.
That's so exciting. And you said 23 years, and that's my oldest is 22. So, I feel
Nice.
that I'm like, wow, that's so long. So that means that you have a lot of experience.
Yeah.
And I am really excited to invite you into the group because we get so many questions here inside the group from moms who are either working already and want to do a career shift. And they wonder, can I do this while I'm homeschooling? Or they're homeschooling and they need to find work, but they don't necessarily want certain types of work. They don't really know what's out there.
Yeah.
And so, we had members earlier post questions. So, how this is going to go, if you ladies are watching live or even on replay, please ask questions in the chat. If they pop up while we're here live, I'll ask Tara. Tara might be able to see them. I don't know. It really depends on how Facebook is acting today. So we know there is quite a bit of a delay. I do apologize for that. So he asked a question and I haven't commented or responded. Tara hasn't seen it. Just give us a few minutes. It will eventually come up. And if not, we will check in after the live to make sure that we have people joining us.
Yeah.
1 second. What's this?
What was that?
We have someone who's entered the waiting room.
Oh, interesting. Did you post the Zoom somewhere?
I may have. So I'm just gonna, there we go. Okay, so let's start with questions if you're ready.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's go.
So the first question, I didn't write down who asked the question because some people had asked similar questions, so I kind of grouped them together. So the first and probably the most common question is how to weed out scams in particular. I would love to hear some tips on, also like to hear, so this is twofold. Some want Zoom or online interviews, and they're wondering about that. So let's deal with the first one. We know one of the main reasons we don't actually allow people to post in our group is because there are so many scams. And for those of us who don't know, who desperately are looking for answers, we don't know what we're looking for. So what types of things should we be avoiding?
So actually, it's interesting because even still in 2024, people think that work from home jobs are hard to come by. And so when they come across one, they get really excited and like, oh, this sounds perfect. But what they need to know is that they're prevalent. There are hundreds of thousands of remote jobs out there. And the best thing that I can advise you to do is to go and look at these websites. So it's probably going to be easier for you to go and actually look for jobs than it is to try to avoid scams. And here's why. Because scammers utilize the platforms that are meant to be for job searching, like LinkedIn, Indeed, all of those ZipRecruiter. Scammers know that people are coming there to look for remote jobs and they will spoof companies. And so it is sometimes very hard to be able to determine what's real and what's not for that very reason. They will literally use company logos. They will grab a name off of a company website and use that in their email. And I'll explain how to identify that in a minute. But if you were to go to any website that you're familiar with, so we're talking like Capital One, Discover, Wayfair, Enterprise, Rent-A-Car, U-Haul, anything like that, anything that you're familiar with, you can literally go to their website, you can scroll to their job and career section, and you can search the jobs yourself. Like they are not hard to come by. It is time consuming, definitely, or maybe you don't maybe you run out of ideas or places to look. And so there are going to be some, companies that come across that you maybe have never heard of. There are ways to do your due diligence with that as well by looking on Google. So if you were to go to Google and you type in a company name, you're either going to see like one company with a name and you're going to see reviews. You might see Glassdoor. If it's listed on Glassdoor with reviews, is probably a good indicator that it is not a scam. If they have actual domain emails. So I go back to that too. A lot of scammers will use Gmail, Yahoo, or Yahoo. They will use generic emails instead of domain emails. That's not always a foolproof way, but it is definitely one to check out. You can tell if there are reviews about the company that are not on the company website. So if you see reviews from like Trustpilot, again, Glassdoor, places like that, you're going to know that it's most likely legit. If you go and you find a very generic named company and there's like 6 companies listed with the same thing, and maybe it's the same company name with .com, .co, .org, whatever, I'd start getting a little concerned, because technically or usually when companies are legit and in business, they trademark their stuff. And so it's very rare that you're going to have the same company name with a whole bunch of different endings in their website. So that's one of the really good ways to be able to tell. Also, if you do start communicating with a company, it's always good to be aware of the language that they're using to communicate with you. So if they respond back super quick, if the grammar is wrong, if there's a lot of grammatical errors, if there is typos, things like that. If anything's off with the logo, again, if they're using a Gmail or generic email, there's a lot of ways to be able to identify that stuff. They are getting really savvy though. So if somebody does encounter something like this and you're really not sure, it's good to go and ask other people, because there are a lot of people that have been seasoned in this stuff now. They've been exposed to it long enough that they can help you identify. So maybe not posting in this group, but in another group, if there's other groups, you can go and ask and say, hey, like, what does this look like? And they're probably going to inform you. So those are just some of the top key indicators to be looking for, but also to be able to safeguard yourself, to just go directly to the website and be searching for jobs yourself. And that's going to kind of more or less be your foolproof way of being able to stay safe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, those are really good points to bring out. And as you were talking about them, I was thinking of the ones that it sounds very similar to when we're like looking for email scams, or, when we're receiving emails from a company, to really check where it's from and the language and look for these things. So yeah, because they're getting sneakier, and it's harder, especially if I find if you yourself are stressed, or you're anxious, or you're desperate. So I love the advice. And you guys, if you're in the group, you'll hear me say this: ask other people. So not in this group, but in other groups, if you know someone who's working for this particular company, ask what is it like? Ask your questions, because that's where you're going to get solid advice.
Yeah. And just one more thing that I want to point out, because I see this happen a lot in not this group, because you keep it pretty tight knit. People get upset that you don't allow links, but I just want it, it's good that you don't, for this reason, because there are scammers or people that will prey on groups like this, because they know who are the people that want to make money from home, people that are already home, the homeschoolers, the stay-at-home moms, the people like that. So if you are in a tight budget household, a one income household, a budget, that's where the scarcity and the desperation sits a lot of times, because people are like, well, I just want to bring in a little bit extra. And so scammers make it look super easy. And so, but I do want to mention that, so in groups, if somebody is not forthright, if they're like, hey, I've got an opportunity, you can work from home, even with your kids, and then they'll DM me, I'd be like, let's hold on the brakes. If it's a legit company, why aren't they just posting the company name, the link, go check out, go look it up on Google or whatever, and allowing you to do that. And so that's another thing. But I do want to state, because Jen, in the online space, there are business opportunities out there. And there's a big difference between somebody trying to share a course or a membership with you versus somebody like trying to get you to pay for a job. They're not the same.
Right.
And so I know a lot of people are unreasonably wary when it comes to anything like that because they're so worried about being scammed. But there's a lot of opportunities then that people are missing out on as well. So it really does make a huge difference to like educate yourself on the differences between the two so that you aren't missing amazing opportunities, whether it's a job or a business or whatever, because you're so skeptical about a scam. And so that's why it's good to just have these things to look out for. Because I do see that like there might be a legitimate job listing, but people are so wary and have their guard up so hard that they miss out on opportunities. But it definitely is all in the way the person that's posting is presenting it. And so that's really good. One of the reasons why it's good that you don't allow the links and allow people to be like, well, my company is hiring, and then allowing people to go and actually look in Google or whatever for themselves versus clicking a link that could bring them anywhere.
Yeah, that is a really good point. I appreciate that. Okay, Abigail says she loves the advice to research the company separately from job listing sites. Yes, very important. Okay, so before we talk about tips for Zoom and online interviewing, a question I thought was really important was what remote positions offer flexible schedules and have been successful career moves for, now this particular, we had actually two of them, they're teachers. And so they wanted to know, like, how do I stay in that kind of like, they've made a successful or the same career change. So if you're a teacher and you're looking for a flexible remote position that has a flexible schedule, what should they be looking for?
Okay. So this might take me a minute to break it down. Are we good with that?
Oh yeah, go.
Okay. So most online positions, if you are looking to stay in a job, like 9 to 5, schedule, benefits, things like that, the chances that you're going to find anything flexible are pretty rare, unless it's like a swing shift where maybe you're working different shifts or whatever. Remote jobs are just that. They are jobs. They are going to operate in the same way that a job that you physically go to operates, except for in this environment, there are some companies that will require you to have a camera on you all day. There are softwares that you have to download in order to make sure that your mouse is moving and that you're at your computer. I'm sure some of you have heard stories about that. And then there are also softwares that they will have you install on your computer where they're taking random screenshots of your screen to make sure that you're working and not scrolling Facebook on company time. So a remote job is just that. Now, if you are wanting to earn an income on a flexible schedule, you have a couple options. One, you can work with companies that are out there, but you would work mostly on an independent contractor basis. So basically this means then that they would not take taxes out of your paycheck, because as an independent contractor, they don't take taxes out and they cannot dictate your schedule. And there was like a new law that is being passed for freelancers. So like Uber, Lyft, things like that, they can't determine your hours, and that's where you get the flexibility, right? That's the difference between being an independent contractor and an employee. So there are companies out there that do that. There are places like rev.com, they do transcription. So I'm just going to use Rev as a perfect example. So they don't have you submit a resume of any kind. They have you come in and they have you do a performance test. If you pass the performance test and they decide to hire you, you can hop into the platform and you can work at any time you want. However, the pay is not great. I think like they're full-time, like people that put in a lot of independent contractor time only make maybe several hundred a month. And so the pay is not wonderful. And there are places like that do this. So there are companies out there that will allow this, but that I usually recommend that for people that just want some extra money coming in, because the pay is so low and you're putting in a lot of time. The other option, of course, is to start an online business. Now, there's differences between So a lot of people are familiar when I talk about freelancing, and this is actually taking a skill that you already have or a piece of your job and servicing other clients with that. So I'm just going to give an example in my case. So when I was in my 9 to 5, I was I was a medical records clerk, and a piece of my job was transcription. And one day the doctor at my work was leaving to go and start his own practice. And he approached me and he's like, "Hey, I'm moving to this new town. I don't know anybody there. I'm actually not even going to have a physical location because I'm going to be a travel doctor. I need some transcription done. Is there any way that if I send it to you, you will do it for me in your off hours?" Well, who's going to turn that down? So that's how I actually got started in freelancing. And this happens a lot across multiple industries. People hear freelance and they think freelance writer because that's what we've always been conditioned to. But freelance can be anything. It can be graphic design, web design, bookkeeping, writing, admin, multitude of things. And so you have the ability to do that with individuals, even in your local community online. I did see one of those questions that was like, well, how do I do this without having to market myself? Well,
Yeah.
I'm just going to throw out an example. So I'm sure many of you live in a community that have a plumber or an electrician. And most likely your plumber and your electrician are not marketing. They're not advertising because people need plumbers and electricians every single day. And customers come to them because they need them to come and fix whatever the problem is. If you decide that you're going to have your own online business as a freelancer, the same thing applies. If people know what you do, they're going to come to you for your service. You don't have to do a lot of hard marketing. So just like Jen here has this homeschool group, she's not out there doing a whole lot of marketing. You're all coming to her because you want support with homeschooling. And so the same applies if you decide to start your own business. And that has ultimate flexibility because you're a business owner. Then you get to set your own schedule, your own pay, whatever. And so that creates the most flexibility. And it does give you the ability then to charge what you need to have as many clients as you want. So if you want to replace your 9 to 5, that's going to be your best bet if you want flexibility. Otherwise, if you just want to replace your income and do it from home, then you're going to go with the job, but it's not going to be as flexible. So does that distinction make sense, breaking it down into those categories? Because I think a lot of people, they want a unicorn that really doesn't exist, but yet you can make income flexibly with a company. If you don't want your own business with a company, even though you're an independent contractor, you're still actually self-employed, even if you're working with a company. So, Lyft drivers, Uber drivers, they're business owners. Like they will file their taxes as a business owner. So just to put that out there, that's the difference.
I really appreciate that because I think people don't get that. They think, oh, I'm going to work for Uber or Lyft. And, and then you say, oh, you're a business owner. They're like, no, I'm not. But when you look at all the different distinctions, I think it's really important. And for those of you who are like, I don't know anything about business, that's scary. I know because I was like, I'm going to start a business. I have zero idea what I'm doing, but you can. And I will say getting support from those who have done this before, having someone to lead you, to answer your questions is huge. It saves you so much time. Because I spent hours and hours and hours on Google and like trying to find advice. And I'm Canadian, for those of you who don't know. So my laws are different from what you have in the US. So Abigail, who's listening in live, she said she taught music lessons and classes online. So,
Yeah.
It's not always, and you're right about the freelance. Every time people think freelance, I always think, oh, writing. But I have myself hired graphic designers, copywriters, people to help with social media, like independent contractors that I hired for a specific job to do something for a certain amount of time. And it really does save others like myself who don't know how to do something time.
Yeah.
So you're really helping other people.
And the reason why I brought freelancing into that is because freelancing feels more like it feels like a job. Because remember, I said I took this piece of my job and then I was doing it for this other doctor. And I actually did it for like 7 other doctors too. So it ultimately ended up replacing my full-time income or my job. And I was doing the same exact thing that I was doing in my job, but for other businesses. So that's why I bring it up. Obviously, we'll talk more about the other types of businesses like Abigail brought up with the music lessons and things like that. Like that's obviously in a different category. But for the sake of this, like that's why I bring up freelancing alongside the flexibility with jobs, because freelancing is going to feel the most like a job if that is where you are comfortable. Because 99% of people don't want to have a business in the general sense that people think of business. And so I always like to say if you are comfortable in that, just performing tasks, like you want the work and you just want to sit down and perform the tasks. You don't want to build an audience, you don't want to put yourself out there online, then freelancing is something where it's the closest to a job with flexibility.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay, so I put a question in the chat that came from Facebook just in case you didn't see it. I don't know if that's your next step, or if you want to talk more about, okay, so what other jobs would you say are out there? So we have freelancing.
Yeah, so we have freelancing. So, and then obviously the remote jobs, so just to go back to the remote jobs, because I know that that's where a lot of people are super interested in. There's so much out there. Like you can be a doctor and work from home, a nurse practitioner, a therapist, a psychologist, X-ray technicians, even if you can believe that, like the people that actually like read the jobs. Oh, and just to explain, what is a remote job? So again, a remote job is actually a W-2 position, or if you live in a different country, I don't know what that's like, in Canada or whatever, but it's an actual job. Like you are physically going to a job, but you're doing it from home remotely instead. So it's still a job. It's not a business. It's not anything. It's literally a job. You log in, you log out. That's it. But you can do this at any caliber. There's entry level positions. I will say a lot of people are under the impression that the only way to be able to work from home in a remote job is if you have to be on the phone, like a call center. That is a common belief. But there's literally everything. There's things that require you to be on the phone, but then there's not. Like there's mortgage loan officers, there's bankers, there's doctors, like I said, all the nurse practitioners, there's nurses that will do triage calls. There is IT people, there are coders and like medical coders, medical billing, like anything that you could imagine that does not require patient contact or customer contact in some way, or maybe they'll just do Zoom. Before 2020, remote jobs were picking up steam, but 2020 hit and that changed everything. And what companies, like there are a lot of companies who, yes, they went remote because that's how they had to survive. And then a lot of them are requiring people to come back to the office.
Mm-hmm.
There's also that subset of the companies that were like, nope, this is amazing. We don't have to have an office. We're saving a ton of money. Our employees are way more productive. And we don't just have the pool of our local community now. Now we get to tap into the whole world. And so they're able to now get candidates from all over. And so it makes it hugely beneficial for them. On top of the fact, again, that they don't have the expenses of having an office. So there's literally just about anything out there. And we go back to looking for companies. So if you are somebody that is in healthcare and you want to find a healthcare job, or you're in mental health, go start Googling hospitals, all around the US or around the world. Go start Googling, mental health companies. If you're IT, go start Googling software companies. And then from there, like I said, you go to their website, you go to their job and career section and you search. Like everything is available to you at your fingertips. This is not some ninja, secret. And I think that's part of the problem. People think that it's like it's mysterious. Where do we find the jobs? And that's where scammers come into LinkedIn and whatever, because they're preying on the people that don't know their way around it. And so it's literally anything. I mean, anything that you want to do, for the most part, there is a remote position somewhere for you. And again, it could be entry level. Discover Card is one credit card company, finance company. I know oftentimes they will have entry level positions. Yes, they have customer service or whatever, but they also have other positions within their company, loan processing and things like that. So the world is literally at all of your fingertips, literally and figuratively. So
Yes. So one of the questions I know often comes up because this is a group of homeschooling moms. They're like, okay, I want to work from home, but I also want to homeschool my kids. And,
Mhm.
you know, I do talk a bit about like how to fit that in and what that looks like, but you have more experience than I do in this. So, what can you share about that aspect of it? Like that this is a legit option for people, especially in my opinion, like I worked full time outside the home. I worked at home. There are
Mhm.
unique benefits to both.
Yeah.
From my perspective, I find like there are benefits from working outside the home.
Mhm.
Um, you know, walking away from your messy house. But there are obviously many cons too, or like cons too, right? Like finding childcare. And sometimes when you work at home, if you are just need to be plugged in, you want that job, you have to be in front of the camera, you may also still need childcare. So
Mhm.
how does this option really like benefit homeschooling moms?
So if they want to have a job, so first and foremost, I will say that's one of the disadvantages of having a remote job is because they most require that you have a quiet, non-distracting environment, which makes it difficult then for moms of little kids to try to be able to keep their kids at home. One thing that I have seen people do though to make it work is that they will get like a mother's helper or a nanny or something like that, where they're still in the home, but they have somebody else helping take care of the kids. So instead of bringing them to daycare, they basically have somebody in the home. But what the advantage to that, of course, is that when they get their 15-minute break in the morning and their 15-minute break in the afternoon and they get their lunch break, they come out of their office and they get to spend that time with their kid. They cut out the commute. You know, they're cutting out all of that extra wasteful time that you're not getting paid for because there's so many people that waste an hour, in the morning, getting ready, going to work, driving the commute, hour back. There's so much time that's wasted. So there's a huge benefit in terms of that, especially if you have school age kids or if you're homeschooling, I guess it doesn't matter. But if you have school age kids, I was gonna say if you work remote and your kids go to school, you have the advantage of being home, if they are homesick. But if you're homeschooling, obviously you have the advantage where you can, for me in particular, I look at homeschooling as, I have a private school, so I get to set the rules. So I don't try to recreate school at home. So a lot of times if I'm doing work in the morning, if I have client work due, we will do school at night. And
Mhm.
so we make it really flexible. If I do want to keep the kids busy though, while I'm trying to get my work done and I don't want the noise of them playing and roughhousing, then I will sit them down with their work. And I've got my office is actually has all of their school desks. So I've got my desk and they all have their desks. And so then we're all sitting in the same room together while I'm working and they're working.
Mhm.
And it makes it just really a neat dynamic because we don't get that when we're actually physically gone to work. And so even if you are working for a company and you have older children that don't need your attention, there should be no reason why they can't be sitting, alongside you in the same room as long as they're respectful and they're quiet and they, don't interrupt. But again, it goes back to it gives you more time back.
Mhm. Yeah.
If I obviously am a huge advocate for online business because that's where the utmost flexibility comes in. That's where, you can exceed income caps that we have with the job. But again, like I said, I know that 99% of people don't want that. They want a job. So if they were going to have a job, I would recommend a remote job because you do cut out all of that wasted time away from your kids because of the commute.
Mhm.
So yeah, if that has to be your choice, I would definitely recommend that versus physically going. However, there are people obviously that want to physically go to work, like you said, but then, well, they're probably not watching this video. So,
Exactly. Right. Well, because I often have people come to me and they're like, I want to work at home because it's so much easier.
mhm,
And I don't want them to go in with that mindset that everything's going to be a piece of cake and everything's going to
yeah,
be like Instagram and your kids are going to be sitting there really gentle and kind. These are kids with real human feelings
mhm,
and we have feelings too. But I will say when I started working from home solely, I still work outside the home, but my kids are now graduated. So obviously, but one thing I really appreciated, and if you're watching this video, I hope you take a time to consider this, is the stress. Like when I worked full time outside the home, I had two small children. I had to hire a babysitter. We had one car. We live in the country. So I would get my kids up at the crack of dawn, take my husband to work. They're in the car because I can't leave them home. Come home, take the kids out of the car, feed them, gather up their stuff, just like they were going to like public school. They had all their books and stuff. I mean, they didn't do a lot of homeschooling without me, but they still had learning activities, got them to the sitters. Then, like, can you imagine the driving and the financial expense? I mean, hiring a sitter, paying for extra gas.
Yeah.
And I didn't know any better. I didn't have this group to ask questions. I didn't know that I could work from home. I literally started my business because I was at my wit's end and I was so alone. So I was like, I need to find other people. Surely I can't be the only crazy person out there. But it's like, the mental health of our children and ourselves needs to take into account too. So yes, I'm not saying if you're working full-time outside the home, you can't do that. You totally can. There's ways to make that work. But if you're watching this video and you're going, okay, I want to work from home, here's some of the benefits. And I think that you really need to know that it is possible. It might not look like what you think it's going to look like, but it's possible.
Well, and that's the thing. And I think, and you're right. People do look at this like, well, if I work from home, that's going to solve all my problems. And it's going to solve a majority of them, but it's also going to create new ones.
Yeah.
Because especially if you are in a position where, you have to be on camera, you're not going to be able to have your kids coming and asking you 142 questions, which we know kids like to do. But if you can set those boundaries and expectations ahead of time and you have things set up in the proper way, it is possible. Like I have all sorts of suggestions for being able to work from home with kids. And I know you have some resources too. And so it's like, if you're going to start doing that, or you're doing it and you're trying to find a better streamlined way, it's like, yes, go search for the resources, find how your journey can be easier to make this happen, because there's so many before you that have done this. And it does cut out, for me, it was really about just having that time back. And when your kids are, with you, and I know moms feel guilty, like, well, I'm working all day and, my kids are at home and I can't give them the emotional support that I want to give them, or the academic support that I want to give them. Again, the academic support can come after your shift because we have that flexibility. But the actual, kids, we as a society have felt like, oh, our kids have to be busy all the time. But if you can give your kids activities that they can learn to keep themselves busy with, like, that is a really good skill going into the future for them. They don't need to be busy all the time. And so try to eliminate like that mom guilt, because I know many of us suffer with that. Like, well, I'm working and then I feel guilty. They're happy to be home with mom. Most of the time, they are happy to be home with mom in a safe environment where they get to learn at their own pace, learn the things that they want to learn. And so sometimes it is effective to like take a step back and be like, okay, am I really damaging my kid? Like, am I really? Or are they happy? A lot of times I will ask my kids, I'm like, I had a busy week this week. Like, I feel bad. I'm not giving you a whole bunch of attention. And they're like, I'd rather be here than whatever. And they're fine with it. So sometimes asking your kids once in a while, like if they're good, might help you take that mom guilt away a little bit, to like actually see your kids aren't suffering the way that you think they are. And we're just so ingrained in that. And so I like to bring that up sometimes for those of you who are in your 9-to-5 or who are trying to make this work, wanting to be remote, and you're worried about that aspect of it. Your kids are most likely okay with that. Like, they're just happy to be with you. A lot of times my kids would just sit next to me, and they felt comfortable just being able to sit there and be with me and not having to be running and going all the time. Like, it's important for them to just be, just like it is for us.
Yes.
So, yeah.
I started laughing because my kid walks through in the middle of that. So yes, it's not just little kids who walk through. But I agree. And I think, not trying to sidetrack the conversation, but I do think this is a really important point, because yes, all moms, first of all moms, working, homeschooling, if you are a mom, you have some sort of mom guilt, you are questioning, you are having that self-doubt. That's normal, and not to be like minimized, because it is like, it's hard to deal with. That's why communities are so important. Having someone or something in place where you can say, bounce that idea off of them and have them check that, because when you are living it, it's so hard to bring yourself out of that.
Mhm.
Second of all, is to notice how much your kids are actually learning because you work from home. Your
Yeah.
kids are learning valuable skills that I did not pick up going to public school and my mom was at home or working at home. I just didn't get it because I didn't see that side. So, when your kids are sitting there, they're watching you handle conflict, do jobs that you love, do jobs you don't love, how to do time management. I mean, so many skills. And it opens them up to the possibility. Now, both of my kids were like, no, I want to go to work. I want to work for somebody else and I want to come home. Great. But some of you have children who want to run their own business or they want to work remote. And so now, because you've done that, you have those skills, you can teach your kids. And these are practical skills that, whether they follow through with that or not, they will still use in life. And I think that's really invaluable.
And I love that you brought that up because, yeah, it opens up the ability, especially for those of you, if you have an entrepreneurial mindset, you want to run a business, like in your homeschooling, like this opens up the possibilities for your kids to run a business with you.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, there's multiple options again out there when we go into that, but that's a whole nother thing with home. That's a whole nother leg of homeschooling that you get to dive into with that flexibility of doing all that. And I love that you brought that up of them getting to see that work ethic because our kids don't get to see, if we get up and physically go to work, they don't get to see that, which is fine. They know you're going to work, they know you're sacrificing, but it's when people feel guilty about like, well, I'm working all the time, but it's good for them to see you actually working. Like it's good, So yeah,
That
I
is.
love that you pointed that out.
Yeah. Okay. So one of the things you talked about is we would get into different types of jobs, I think,
Businesses.
businesses.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, so let's dive into that a little bit.
All
So
right.
there's obviously a lot of people are looking for like different income streams. Obviously with homeschooling, we want to be flexible. So I've already brought up freelancing. Again, we've talked about this multiple times in this group. That is obviously my favorite because it is for the most part, it is the fastest path to cash for anybody because you can literally say, hey, I'm offering this service and you can have a client like that. Okay. The other options, of course, people are familiar with are e-commerce and they're familiar with hearing people doing coaching, courses, affiliate marketing, things like that. So I want to break those down a little bit for everybody, just so that they can kind of get a handle on what these look like. So I have a framework that I like to look at this at because there's every single one of us have a different situation. So when I tell people like, okay, you want a business and you're trying to figure out what you want to do because now you have all of these ideas and you can't sort out which one is going to be the best for you.
Mm-hmm.
I like to look at it in building a business on your terms. Okay. So what kind of time do you have available to put into a business and how much time do you have before you need it to produce a result? Okay. How much energy do you have to put into it? Not only the energy at the end of the day or during the day, like, oh, I'm tired, like I've got lots of energy, but I mean like the excitement in which you are going to look at a business through. Like you don't want to start a business if you're not going to be excited about it or like be able to have your kids be excited about it with you. The amount of risk you're able to take. So I see a lot of people say, well, I don't have a lot of money to invest, but then they actually choose a business that is going to require a lot of money and a lot of risk. And they don't think about that ahead of time. And then they put all of this time and this effort into starting a business and it backfires on them because they run out of money or they run out of time. So then there is the how much money do you have to put into it? Again, that goes back to risk, but how much money do you have to put into it or how much money do you need to make? So if you are somebody that's like, I just need a little bit of money, then you probably want to choose just a simple business like freelancing. If you're like, well, I want a lot of money, then you're going to want to figure out, a different way. But that's dependent on everybody. And then your situation. What kind of situation do you have? How much time in your day do you have? A lot of people can have, there's people that have one kid and have no time in the day, and there's people that have 8 kids that have no time in the day, but it's all about priorities and where your family is sitting in terms of your situation, financial situation, things like that. So I always like to evaluate things on that front. So that's why, one, again, I favor freelancing because it's quick, low risk, not a lot of money involved unless you have somebody coach you. But other than that, e-commerce, there's a lot of risk involved. So I want to share just a little bit about that. E-commerce obviously is where you have a product, physical product, digital product, and you sell it to customers. You can use platforms that already exist like Amazon, Etsy, Teachers Pay Teachers. You can do digital, you can do physical on all of those. Those have their own inherent risks. You can build your business on these platforms, but they can shut you down at any time. Just to give you an example, several years ago, I had a drop shipping business on Amazon where I partnered with manufacturers all around the US to sell their stuff. I had access to their product catalogs, their pricing lists, everything. I went and listed everything on Amazon, and randomly one day I woke up and my store was suspended, and they had $5,000 worth of my money that I had already sent products out to the customers for, and I could not get it back until I could figure out why I was suspended in the first place. And you can't talk to anybody. So, anyways, I ended up just deleting all the products from my store, which was just a horrible thing because I had thousands and thousands and thousands, tens of thousands probably, to finally get my money 5 months later. But then you obviously have, there's returns. If customers want returns, Amazon, Etsy, they all favor the customer. So it's something to think about. Do you have a lot of time, energy, things like that to put into an e-commerce business? A lot of people see all of these ads like, oh, you can start digital products and sell 6 figures in a month. The reality of that, and I want to just break it down for people so that they kind of have a really good idea, but the ratio is like for every 100 people that see your product, digital or physical, for every 100 people that see your product, only 1 or 2 are going to buy. And that's if you have the right type of customer that you're showing it to. So if you're selling a $7 product, or if you're selling a $14 product and you get a $7 profit, it's going to take like 30,000 views on that product to get 600 sales in order for you to get $4,000 a month profit.
Mm-hmm.
That's a lot of products. So you got to create. So it isn't like, oh, I'm just going to have 1 or 2 products. No, it's an ongoing thing. It's possible, but it's ongoing and it's a numbers game. So you have to have a lot of products in order to sell enough for you to replace your income. But then you have to do that month after month after month. Now, I'm not saying it's not possible. It is, but it's something that's not going to happen overnight. It's not something that's going to happen in 30 days. So if people decide they're going to go into that, it's like, it's good to be informed on the reality of it, because I will see people invest time, money, whatever, into doing this, and then they don't get a sale in 60 days and they're like, well, that didn't work. It's not that it didn't work. It's just you didn't give it enough time and you didn't have enough money or risk to put into it. Okay. So,
exactly, yeah.
So that would be like printables. That would be like Amazon FBA. That would be print on demand. So t-shirts, mugs, things like that. This would be all of that stuff. So just to give you that idea. And then there's courses, coaching, and affiliate marketing. So same thing. People think like, oh, I'm going to be an affiliate marketer. That takes time as well, because in order for you to sell somebody else's product, you have to have a customer to sell them to. So in order to do something like that, you either need to start a Facebook group, you need to have a place to collect emails, you need to start a YouTube channel, you need to start some sort of social media and become an influencer. Like, in order for you to be able to replace your income with affiliate marketing, you have to have some sort of way to build an audience. And same thing with courses, coaching, all of that. It takes time to build up. Again, that's not something where you're just going to go start and you're going to have 6 figures in 6 months. Like it takes time. Some people get super lucky, but a lot of times they'll be like, oh, I sold, $50,000 in 30 days. And it's like, well, yeah, but you spent 2 years building your list to do that. So it's just, I like for people to look at the reality of it. There's multiple options, but to look at it from the standpoint of reality of how long it's actually going to take. So there's a lot of people out there who do have courses, coaching, things like that, but they've been building it up over time. They've been building trusting relationships. They have, they serve their clients much like you do here. You've provided this safe space for them. You have the coffee club. That's a little extra support for you to be able to provide to the members of your coffee club. But you've had to take the time to build up this free group first, create a product, offer it to somebody like, hey, I'm going to give you a little bit more of my time. So now come and join me in here. I'm going to give you more support. I'm going to give you more resources. I'm going to give you more training. And I think you even have business coaching even above that, right? And that kind of came after too. So it's something that has gradually come up over time. How long have you had this Facebook group?
I think it's since 2018.
Okay, so 6 years.
Yeah.
So 6 years it has taken you to get to the level of amount of people that you have in here.
Yes.
And so it takes time. It takes
does.
a lot of word of mouth. It
And a lot of people, they look at this group, there's over 30,000.
Yeah.
And then they forget the whole thing about building on social media is wonderful. except Facebook can come in here and shut this down anytime, which is why I encourage everyone to get on my email list.
Exactly.
Plug. But
Yeah.
honestly, like it can happen. And another thing is, everyone has been asking us about this very topic and the amount of people that actually see all of the reminders that we send out. So for those of you that don't know, there were actually 3 or 4 reminders that this was going to happen today. But social media does not show. It's the algorithm. And I mean, I'm not complaining. Whatever. It is what it is. But
Right.
people don't realize when they take that into consideration, when you see those ads about affiliate marketing, make less, you don't know, like you might get 5 cents when somebody purchases. It doesn't cost the client anything or the person who purchased, which is great. 5 cents. Okay.
Mhm.
How many of those are you going to sell before you have to do this? Right.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
how do you feel about, so there's so much to take into consideration.
Yeah.
And I don't
Right.
think it's like I do affiliate marketing. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I only promote products I love or I think are super helpful. But I think that, it's definitely something that you need to keep in mind when you're like, this is how I'm going to make my income, is everything that Tara said, like how much time, how much money. And those are not something to be taken light. And then how much time do you really have in your day? Because I've talked to people and they're like, oh, it's only going to take me 30 minutes. And then you sit down, say it's an email you're sharing with your list about a product. And an hour later, you're still writing the email. Like, yes, it will come faster. But if you don't know how much it really takes, you need to be a little bit realistic and practical about these things.
Yeah.
So I love what you shared.
Yeah. And I do want to say, like, a lot of people rely on, we're used to like joining an MLM or a network marketing thing, and we're used to just like posting on our profiles and being like, hey, I'm joining this thing, like buy this thing. But most of us have, if we're not in the online world, most of us probably have a circle of 400 to 1,000 people. And if you're constantly posting to the same people over and over again, your business is going to fizzle out. So if you've tried MLM before and it hasn't worked, it isn't because it was you that it didn't work. It was because your network was not big enough. You can't sell to the same group of people over and over again. And if you're not growing your network, you're not going to be able to grow your business. And so that is a key reminder for many of you who are like, but I've tried all these things and failed. No, it's not that you failed. You just didn't know how to grow it properly. And so I just want to remind some of you, like because I know that there's a lot of people, obviously because of what I do, there's a lot of people that are skeptical, and we go back to, you might see a product or you might see a course or you might see somebody selling coaching, and we get really skeptical about, well, I don't know if I want to pay somebody to like help me do this. And it's like, I want to remind many of you that you pay for your children to have lessons, to go learn musical instruments. You pay for your children to go learn sports. You pay for your children to go to gymnastics or ballet or to learn to dance. And it's like, why, if your children need that, like, why couldn't they just go watch YouTube? If that's what you're thinking you could do, they could do that too. But it's not the same thing as being plugged in to an actual instructor and somebody that can take you by the hand and say, do it this way, do it this way, do it that way. And so you as an adult need that structure too. That's why so many people go back to college. But you can have a new career, you can start a new business without going $20,000-$30,000 into debt. You can plug into somebody that has already done this. Well, why do people charge for these services if I can just get them for free on Google? Well, you can go learn a lot of stuff on Google for free, like at colleges, like stuff that colleges teach, right? But you go so that you can have somebody that has walked the path before you and can dedicate their time to you. So like Jen has her free group, but then she has her club membership. And that's because she's dedicating more time, more resources to build those things out for you. The coaching, she's giving you more individualized attention. So you're not paying for the information necessarily. I mean, yes, you're getting more curated information, but you're getting somebody's time. Like this is a business. And so if you're like, oh my gosh, I want to do this, but I don't know how, plug yourself into somebody that you trust so that you can get to where you want to go faster. I mean, that's key. So, how do you build your audience? How do you grow a YouTube channel? How do you do these things so that you can go out there and tap into the internet? Because if you don't know these things, you don't know what you don't know. That is like my key mantra. You don't know what you don't know. And how are you supposed to go search Google if you don't know the information to search for?
Yes.
Like if you knew how to do it, you would have done it already. And
Yes.
that's the key point that I like to always tell people, because it's like we're not meant to know everything. But there are other people that know what we want to know. And so if we can plug into them, just like we let our kids plug into a football coach or a soccer coach or a piano teacher, the
Mhm.
same is true for you. Let yourself plug in to somebody so that you can expand your growth and you can actually have a successful business. Because if you're trying to build it on your own with your very small network, it's just not going to happen. So you didn't fail, you just didn't know how to do it properly.
Yeah. And I think the power of having community, having somebody who can lead the way. Like I have invested much into my business. And, and I think even, okay, so before anyone buys something, especially a high price ticket, I always say meet the person who is hosting it. I made a mistake and I didn't. And that program turned into a full-time job. Like I needed 3 of me just to learn the thing. And that did not include homeschooling
Right.
and looking after my kids. So like meet the person. If you have questions, contact the person, see how they relate to you. But absolutely, we invest in things for our kids and we always feel like, oh, I don't know, but time, like those free things are just so not free. And we know that from homeschooling, right? Some of you have the time, you use free homeschooling resources, and that's great. But as a working mom, you need to figure out where your investments are, and that includes the investment of your time.
Yeah.
So,
And that includes why a lot of people will be like, nope, I just want to buy the open and go curriculum. I just want it done for me. And it's the same type of thing. If you were to invest in something with your business, you're investing in the shortcut, shall we say. You're
and that
investing in the
shortcut
shortcut.
is worth its weight in gold when it's the right one.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not
Well,
kidding.
it
Especially,
is.
like, I loved what you said when you're like, you don't even know what to search for. So, my husband always says I'm the worst person on Google because I don't know the keywords. I'm like, I need to learn this thing. And I don't know what this thing is called. So I'm like using all these other words to try to figure out what this word is. And like
Yeah.
3 hours later, I still don't have an answer because I don't know what I don't know.
Yeah. I have a mentor one time, or I have a mentor, and one of the things that he says, and this doesn't apply to everybody because not everybody wants 6 figures, but he's like, for as long as you don't know how to make 6 figures, it's costing you 6 figures. Like if you don't know how to make it, it's costing you that much money. And
Yeah.
so that applies to, an extra $1,000 a month, $2,000 a month. The more time you spend thinking about it and knowing that you want to, knowing that you need to, but you don't know how, it's costing that much money. So whether you're investing your time, into figuring it out, or you're investing money for the shortcut, like either way, like to be able to jump in and do it is amazing. I mean, the same reason why many of us have invested time into figuring out homeschooling, and we never figure it out on the first try.
Right.
I mean, how many, I know for me, I have a whole shelf, 5 shelves long, that of curriculum that I have bought and didn't like.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because
Exactly.
I didn't plug into anybody and be like, hey, what curriculum works the best? I just went willy-nilly searching.
Yes, especially as a working mom. Like I tell people inside the coffee club, we talk about curriculum a lot. In fact, I think there's another discussion coming up because curriculum is it's so overwhelming. And if you don't know what to filter it through, and even like I was given curriculum, but I was like, I don't know how to use it as a working mom. Do I have, and then I had all these questions like, can I do this? Can I do that? The answer is yes. Yes, you can do the thing. But I didn't know that as a new homeschool mom. I was like, oh, am I going to break the rules? Are they going to come and arrest me? Like, if you don't know and you don't have
Yeah.
anyone to ask, it's important. So I wanted to keep this to an hour. I know I
Yep.
totally sidetracked the conversation. Um, so Tara, I know a few members know who you are, and some inside the coffee club absolutely love you and know who you are. So, do you want to tell us a little bit? Because one thing I really wanted to do with this video was to answer all their questions, and we've answered a lot of them. If you are watching live or on replay, please ask questions in the chat. We will get back to you as soon as possible. But I also don't want to leave people hanging. So, where should they go to learn more if they're interested in remote or working from home?
So we actually have, we have 2 Facebook groups. If you are just interested in working from home or you already are in business, you can just comment in the chat below, like, hey, this is what I'm doing, and I'll I'll lead you to the right place. But we actually just last year started opening up a membership that has all of the things that we discussed today, to give people a resource to be able to like check out all of the things for one low price, $27 a month. Jen's going to have a link for you. And we have a list of over 200 companies that are hiring remote, some that hire independent contractor. And then we touch on some of the businesses that we talked about today. Not all of them yet, because we're just getting started. But we have there's a training in there that Jen and I did, or that I did in the coffee club. Jen was so kind to let me download that, so that is there as well. And you can see just the value that she provides, even just from that one interview that I put in there. And yeah, so I'll let you share the link. I won't say it out loud so that they can grab your link. Yeah, that's where you can either find me in the free group, and I can lead you to the right way if you comment below and let me know which one you want to join. And then Jen has a link for that membership if you want to jump in and cancel anytime. There's no further obligation, but we literally cover how to identify scams. I do a whole training in there on how to find remote companies, how to identify the scams in deeper. We go deep into that. So
yeah, I think that's great. So I pinned the comment with the link in the chat. I would highly recommend anyone who is interested, at least go look at the page. The page is beautiful, and I think it answers so many questions that you guys have asked. It's definitely something that I wish I had 8 years ago. I wish I had access to it. I didn't even know what was available. Let's just say growing pains when you're trying to do it all on your own is hard. I got there, kind of. But I'm still getting there, right? I'm still learning. It's the wonderful thing. Okay, what do we tell our kids, right? You never stop learning. So as moms, whether we're working a new business, we're trying to get a different job, we're expanding, we're always learning. So I always recommend like keep learning, keep figuring things out. And if you get a shortcut, check it out.
and keep plugging into community. I do just really quickly want to say a lot of people, they think that business is all tactics and strategy, but a lot of times it's literally the psychological piece of it, and just seeing that other people are doing the same thing as you, even working in a remote job, to know that other people are working a remote job too and having the same perks and yet the same struggles. And so just plugging into people, that's why this community here for homeschooling is so, so important, to plug in with people who understand, because public school, parents don't understand the same struggle that we have as homeschoolers. So community is huge. So,
Yes.
plug into Jen's coffee club too. It's amazing.
Yes. So does I looked and I forgot, but I think it comes with the community as well, right?
Yeah, it does. Yep.
Yeah.
And
And she's
Q&A
right. Like,
calls.
I think I try to include a community element. I mean, I also have an e-commerce store. So all my digital products do not have a community, but I think like community, it's just so undervalued until you get it.
Yeah,
And once you get that support, I mean,
huge.
I'm still paying for support because it is so, so vital to my mental health and carrying the mental load and all of that stuff. So
Absolutely.
yeah, find your community.
And learning new strategies to handle it all from people that have gone before you.
Yes, absolutely. All right. Thank you so much for joining me.